Tim,
We're
I'm
running
sorry,
late.
Andrea. Tim is not going to be able to join us.
Oh, okay.
He had to fill in with his kids. So
Okay.
it's good you're here.
Sure is.
Yeah, very timely. So it is 5 p.m. This is Councilor Bill Solms, and I'm calling this regular meeting of the Ledyard Town Council Finance Committee to order. Present are members of the committee, myself, Andrea Ingalls, and also other councilors, Hillary Evans and Mary McGrattan, the mayor, finance director, Marcia Hancock, Parks and Rec director, Scott Johnson, mayor's assistant, Kristen Chapman, Eugene Thoreau, Deborah Monahan from TVCCA, and Dave and Sarah Holdridge. I think that's everybody.
Did you mention Kevin? Councilor
And
Dombrowski?
Kevin Dombrowski, Councilor Kevin Dombrowski. Where'd he go? Yeah, I skipped right over him on the list. Sorry, Kevin.
That's okay.
Thanks, Sandra. Okay, so that said, are there any citizens' comments? If anyone would like to speak, please just raise your hand or unmute yourself and speak. Guess not. We have a presentation from Deborah Monahan from Thames Valley Council for Community Action. And Deborah, I'm going to turn it over to you. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Bill. And hi, Mary McGrattan. How are you?
Hi,
Deb Monahan.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you.
I'm still here. Nice to see you again, Fred, two times. And Kristen, nice to see you. And thank you, everyone, for this opportunity to take a few minutes and speak with you about our request for some ARPA funding. As you can well imagine, last year was incredibly challenging for all of us. You know, when the state shut down, you know, we were faced with the challenge where many senior centers also shut down. And how were we going to take care of seniors? So we worked with our senior center directors or the social service staff in the town to identify vulnerable folks who needed Meals on Wheels, because when the governor came out with stay home, stay safe, we had our regular Meals on Wheels clients that we had been serving through the program anyways. And then we began to receive a lot of phone calls from seniors who were too scared to leave their homes and wanted to know if they could participate in the Meals on Wheels program. And so we saw our demand go up for Meals on Wheels by 38%. Eugene is going to shake his head and he's going to fill in any gaps here, but Eugene and his staff, every step of the way, were swinging for the seniors. The commissary immediately kind of went into, for lack of a better word, high gear to produce additional meals necessary to meet this demand. They worked long hours, they worked weekends, initially, especially because of the fact that so many people were in their homes and in need of the food. We had wonderful, wonderful partners from a variety of the towns and other volunteers who helped us get initial emergency meals out and stuff. And so through this all, we were able to serve all of the seniors that made requests of our Meals on Wheels program during, during the height of the pandemic and really literally right through today. But one of the things that we recognized as we were doing that is that our commissary, which was constructed in 1998, was in need of some new equipment and some updates that would help us to be a little bit more efficient in this production of food and stuff. So we worked with a company that specializes in this type of like design, if you will, around the production and around the equipment necessary to provide for us the oversight, direction, and ultimately the construction of the renovations and the upgrades. The cost for all this came in a little closer, around $450,000. We reached out to a lot of the local foundations. Unfortunately, Many of the local foundations do not fund, for lack of a better word, capital campaigns. They fund other kinds of things. We do have one foundation in the greater Norwich area, the Mary and, the Edward and Mary Lord Foundation. You may have heard of the Lord Foundation, incredibly generous foundation. And they gave us an initial $100,000 towards the project, reached out to them. Ever so grateful to Catherine, Jeff, and Joel for their generosity. But what we were faced with the project was, this isn't the kind of thing where, okay, so we got 100,000, so now we can do one or two things. One thing built on another. So in order for us to put in the new refrigeration and the upgraded and updated refrigeration that we needed, we had to pour cement. In order to do that, we also had to have the electrical and the plumbing ready. So it wasn't the kind of thing where we could take all this time to kind of literally raise money. So in order to do this, we had to go out and secure a $300,000 mortgage. So we did that. When the ARPA money became available, we thought, well, maybe if we make a pitch to all of the towns that we served, looking at the number of clients that we served in the town, the number of meals that we served in the town, maybe there's an ability to leverage some resources that will help us pay down this mortgage. What it will do is it will literally take the money that right now we are paying for the mortgage and allow us to put it into the services that we provide, making sure we have the staff in place as well as the meals in place to continue to serve people. So I'm going to stop there and answer any questions, and Eugene can fill in for me in terms of that. So our request is for 15,000. As I said, I sent a letter. I think it was shared, Roxanne, in the package with you all. You may have seen that letter. It pretty much explains everything. The calculation for Ledyard was based on math. Basically, we took the 300,000 roughly, looked at the number of unduplicated clients and the number of meals served, and your percentage and everything came to approximately $15,000.
Okay, thank you. Counselors, question? Andra?
Okay, I am not muted. Thank you for the presentation, Deborah. You just answered one of my questions right there at the end, was how did you come up with the 15,000? So thank you for answering that. I'm curious about the 38% in raw numbers. What's the increase on that?
Eugene, I don't know if you want to answer that question for me. Eugene Thoreau is the director.
Good evening. How is everybody? So yeah, as far as the numbers, the increase, we did almost about 180,000 meals last year, give or take. The previous fiscal year, this past fiscal year, which ended in September, we did about 250,000 meals of commissary.
Oh, wow.
And I think,
and based on those numbers, yes, for Ledyard, we have about 50 seniors that we provide meals to, which is about 7,000 meals. And our, the cost, our cost of doing that is about $47,000 just for the and I know that we're not asking for those funds, but in correlation that it's all part of our cost.
Yeah, Andra, we were serving, Eugene, we were serving what, about 550 Meals on Wheels clients, and we're up to about 900? Is that what it went up to?
About 950 right now.
Yeah, so that's the increase that we saw.
Thank you. Thank you. It sometimes just helps to hear it in two different, several sets of numbers gives you a fuller understanding of what we're really working with. So thank you. I appreciate that.
No, thank you for the question.
Mary or Kevin or Hillary, questions?
I don't have anything. Thank you, Bill.
Okay, thank you.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, so Mary and Hillary and Scott and I were at the senior center today, and we saw Meals on Wheels going out, as we always do whenever we serve the seniors. Interesting to note, senior attendance has been declining. At one time, we had 100 people, way back at senior luncheons. Then it was 50, then it was 25. But this is the first time we've been to one since the pandemic, and there were 17 people there. 7 of them were takeout meals.
Yeah.
So attendance for meals there has dropped way off.
Yeah, I think
So
that's,
we understand.
yeah, I think it's the a sign of the time. I think certainly your senior center isn't any different than some of the other
Sure.
senior centers. And I think, Eugene can certainly answer any questions with that, but I think what we're seeing is kind of the grab and go is a little bit
Yeah.
more aligned with their comfort level right now.
Exactly.
And that's okay.
Yep, sure. That's what I do. So Mary, I'm sorry.
Yes, okay.
Question.
I have a question, Deborah. How many meals a week or even a day does Ledyard provide from your commissary?
I would have
We
So
to,
still-
Eugene's going to answer that, Mary.
Start packing up. So how many meals every day do you serve to Ledyard residents?
let me do a little math, because, Ledyard is not the only one that we service, so, but I can, let me do some quick.
While Eugene's doing that, if I could, I would just say that of all the community partners that we have, I would say that TVCCA is probably our #1 go-to for energy assistance for the Meals on Wheels. And I would say that Deb and Eugene do just absolutely incredible work. And we are so thankful for what you do. And Kristen probably could add more, but I would say without a doubt, TVCCA is our #1.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
So basically, we do about 134 meals a week, which is about 30 meals a day. give or
Oh,
take.
wow,
Wow.
I didn't know it was up to that. Okay, thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Okay, well, we thank you, Deborah and Eugene, and we already have the request on our list. We have many things on the list. We'll be talking later in this meeting, and we'll continue to discuss how we're going to fund the multiple projects that we're looking at. So you're welcome to stay if you wish. You don't have to, but we won't make a decision tonight, and we're going to take a slow walk through this list because we also want to get some community input where it makes sense. So
Well,
thank you for this. Any last comments?
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Mayor. Kristen, I know you're right there swinging with us. Give Kristen also some kudos as well. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for even inviting us to come.
We're happy to have you.
Thank you very, very much. So thank
We
you.
appreciate what you guys do. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Good night.
Yep. Good night.
Good night.
Okay. And there are only 2 of us. So Andrea, how about if I make the motions and you do the seconds, and we'll roll through our agenda.
Works for me.
First one, this is Councillor Solms. I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of October 6th.
Second, Counselor
Thank you.
Ingalls.
Any corrections, comments?
No.
I did my best. I found, I think, one little spelling or something. They were excellent. Thank you, Roxanne. All in favor, please say aye.
Counselor Ingalls votes aye.
Councillor Solomon votes aye, and the minutes are approved. Thank you very much. Marcia, Finance Director's report.
I have sent to you the expenditure and revenue reports for September 30th. If you have any questions, please let me know and I will get detail for you. I'm starting to add comments at the end of the reports, and it's just a very high level overview of where we are at this point in the year. We're right where we usually are at this time of the year. I think revenues are probably up more than we usually are at this time of the year, but expenditures are pretty steady and consistent with other years.
Good.
We're I would say for the audit, we're in the nitpicky part, which is in some ways the most difficult part because we've turned over all the information and we're in tweaking mode now. So we have minor adjustments here and there, and but those are the ones that usually take the most time because that's the way Murphy's Law works. And other than that, we're gearing up for budget season. And I know that we have talked about the ClearGov module. I'll be bringing at the next, at the November meeting, the first November meeting, I will be bringing a request to go forward with that purchase of the additional modules. We have some money left over from the CRF grant, and it's about the right amount for the budget modules. So I will probably ask that the remainder of that money be spent on ClearGov, since we have to have the rest of that money spent by December 31st. So last December, we received a grant of $120,000 from the state for CRF, and we didn't have to provide any backup or documentation at that time. So we have a report that's due this Friday, which has already been submitted, showing what we have spent from July 1st of 2020 through September 30th. And all but 10,400 of that amount has been spent. We have some payroll that where extra cleaning was done because of COVID, and we had custodial people in for more hours to do that kind of cleaning during the day. And we had various other PPE items and nursing equipment and PPE cleaning supplies, the ledge light contribution that we made, things like that. So we will be done with that at the end of December. All the reporting will be finalized, and then we can start reporting on ARPA funding. So that will be fun.
Awesome.
And if you have any questions on the budget reports, just let me know and I'm happy to help.
Yeah,
answer.
I didn't get a chance until Marcia or Roxanne put it up, so thank you. If we have questions, we'll get back. And thank you for the summary. Andrea, questions?
Marcia, the CRF, that was a COVID grant?
Yeah, that's the COVID coronavirus relief fund.
Right. Okay. Thank
That
you.
was paid to the states, and then the states awarded by population. The first round, we actually had to submit all the invoices, a lot of detail. And then in the second round, we just had to report by categories.
Okay.
Good. Okay. And going back a few meetings, for people who are interested, the item with the proper accounting for the Board of Ed forward purchase has been corrected, correct, Marcia?
I'm
The-
sorry,
the
the
IT
prepay? Are you talking
The
about?
prepay for the IT funding?
Yes,
That
we
was
did
corrected.
get the journal entry on that.
Yep. So that the auditors are satisfied on that. So
Yes.
glad we caught that up front and reported it versus the other way around. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Is now a good time to ask for the layman's explanation of how it was corrected? Or is that?
Yeah,
part of
I
the
can
meeting?
tell you
Yeah.
that. So we have a balance sheet account called prepaid items. And whenever you pay, in one fiscal year for items in an upcoming fiscal year, you book that amount in the prepaid account. And the other half of that entry is a credit to the expenditure account that it was originally paid out of.
Okay,
So that 500,000 has now been credited to their whatever account they used in fiscal year 21, and will show as part of their, it will show as part of their ending surplus. For in the audit, there's one line for education. That's all. And so it'll show as a $700,000 surplus because they have about an actual surplus of about 200 and I think 211,000. So it'll show as a $700,000 surplus, but because that has actually already been spent, we will only be transferring 211,000 to their Board of Ed reserve account.
okay, thank you. I actually understood that.
Thank you, Marcia. Thank you for the question, Andrew. Okay. Let's move on to old business. The mayor has provided an updated capital improvement ARPA list with capital improvement items, and I just wanted to make a couple of comments. I've opened my own copy, so I can't see everything on my screen now. But nice job, Mayor. Thank you for doing that. I just wanted to make one correction. The sewer line upgrade to the Highlands. My suggestion was that we consider doing water line replacement, not sewer. Because that's when leaks happen if you have an old pressure system. And we do have occasional leaks in the Highlands. I have nothing from WPCA, and I'll bring that up at the next meeting. I don't know if it's going to fit in with everything else that we've got, but we should be, and I'll mention this to the WPCA, we should have a plan with the WPCA for replacing the water lines in the Highlands so that we're not digging up our streets right after we pave them to replace leaks. I also added, you've got it broken out by type of request. And I put in a couple of extra columns, which I'll send to everybody. One was, does it go in the capital plan or not? Because if it's in the capital plan, we can have public vote on our decision. If it's not in the capital plan, then we have to have justification for why it's not in the capital plan, or it's just a plain expense. So I put a column for capital plan, yes or no. And I also put one for priority. Some of these things we really need to do as a matter of urgency. For example, the example we've been using is the road millings in the VOAG barn, which don't get driven on, don't get the sunlight, so they're pretty hazardous if you're not sure on your feet, as I found. And that's something we should do sooner rather than later because it's a liability. So we probably wouldn't put that in the capital plan. I also thought that a couple of the requests we've gotten, one being Ledge Light and the other being TVCCA, I thought we should put those as a higher priority because they've already spent the money on our behalf. So rather than, first of all, they're expenses, they're not capital, but rather than put them in the capital plan, I thought we should move more quickly on those two rather than wait for the whole process to play out. So I'll share this list and my additions to it with everyone, and we can take it up again at the next meeting. And
that's perfect. Yep, and I'll go ahead and make that edit too on the Highlands sewer line and correct it to the Highlands water main.
Thank you. Thank you,
Sure.
Mayor. Andra, any other thoughts on funding ARPA projects, et cetera?
No, you mentioned prioritizing, and I think that's an important thing for us to do. I'm thinking of Steve Maslin, who often includes such a designation in his own SIP. So he's always thinking about what could he bump, what needs to be move up on the list, what can wait. And I think that needs to be part of our rubric for sure.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Okay. All right, that's all I have on that. We'll bring it back at our next finance meeting. And I'll move on to the next item of the agenda, which is the fire apparatus. And Mayor, as I reported at the town council meeting, we were just overwhelmed with the preparation and detail both fire companies put into their presentations. They literally opened every compartment on every vehicle to show you what was in there. Partly because they're concerned about how they're going to consolidate equipment on trucks when we shift apparatus around. But we were just really impressed with the work they do. And when you see it and talk to firefighters in person, it's a lot different. I mean, everybody knows fires are dangerous. It's a terrible thing to have a house fire, and it's very dangerous to fight one. But when you talk to the guys doing it, and you also see the danger they put themselves in after the fact with carcinogens, it's pretty impressive what we have from our volunteers as well as our paid firefighters. So it was well done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I have on that. Andra, anything else for that one? No,
I agree. Bill, on this item though, is there a decision point? I mean, this isn't a votable item, right? We're just going to continue to look at it, right?
Yeah, it's not. I was actually thinking about this afternoon, whether we should take it off of our agenda. Steve Holyfield's goal in bringing this to us was to raise our awareness of the frame rail issues that we have, as well as the consolidation plan. And it's something for us to know when it comes to budget season. There's nothing we need to do right now or until budget season. So we might consider taking it off the agenda. So
okay. I will give just a shout out to Steve Holyfield.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
Yep.
And in part because he has brought us such useful data, including the fire hydrant map. Like I was, when he brought that, I thought, why don't we already have this? So he was able to show, to support the need for a tanker, right? So this is the part of town where hydrants are accessible. This is the number of residents who really don't have that available. So he's really making data-driven decisions, and he's bringing us that data, and it's very, very helpful to us.
that was an excellent use of it. We put that in place, I think about 10 years ago. The WPCA listed all the hydrants, and Jim Mann went around and put the GPS coordinates, I believe. That was his plan. I think he did that, but he put the GPS coordinates in the map so that they can be found and we can make decisions like the one you just described. So yeah, the more maps we have, there's also we have overlays. What's that software that we have, Mayor?
People forms.
What is it?
People forms.
People forms, yeah. So you can also map homes, like who has a pet in a home, who has an elderly resident in a home. That can all be put into the maps, and it's accessible by firefighters. So when they show up at a scene, they know that they've got to take special precautions, but also it's helpful, like in the example we just talked about, when you're deciding where you need water, how much equipment you need for pumping versus firefighting. It's great information to have, and that's all a result of the IT work that was done a while ago to upgrade the town software and applications. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Okay, so I'm going to move on, unless we have any other old business. I'm going to move on to new business, and I will make a motion on we're going to discuss and maybe take action. So let's discuss first the Town of Ledyard Policy for Capital Improvement Projects and Checklists as contained in the draft dated October 12th. This came up because we have a project where a bidder was notified that they had won the bid, and the process was followed correctly to put the project out to bid, but it's on the capital plan. And part of the funding for the project was bonding. And with bonding, you have to have a town meeting to approve the project and approve going out to bond before you notify the bidder that they've got the job, because if the voters don't approve, then we've got a problem. We've told the bidder he's got the job, or she, and we don't have funding to do the job. So at our last meeting, we talked with the Board of Ed about the process to follow going forward. And Marcia gave us the steps for approving a project with or without bonding, with or without grant funding, or with just, budget money. So Roxanne sent us a draft. Thank you very much, Marcia and Roxanne, for putting that together. I had a couple of comments on it. I'm going to look at my own version, Roxanne. Yeah.
Version I pulled up is the one that Marcia had provided comments to.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go through those first. Okay.
I don't know what the changes are, but she could probably tell you. But this is, this was the version that Marcia went in and edited after I
Okay.
sent the draft out.
I turned off track changes because I couldn't think appropriately. So basically, it's all the same things that are in the track changes draft. Some of it is compressed into into one section, I think, rather than two sections. So the approval and commencement of projects, I believe, is, can you move down? Yeah, thank you, Rex.
Yeah,
Two sections 3 and 4 are, I think, in your marked up version, maybe 3 sections. But it's basically what we talked about at the last meeting when the Board of Ed was here. What to do when you're using taxpayer money only, what to do when you
Mhm.
are using grant money,
Yep.
what to do if it needs bonding or short-term borrowing. And then there are several projects that will have both grants and bonding, especially Board of Ed projects where they get funding from the state. And we also go to bond. The key, I think, is the whole concept of getting preliminary cost estimates before something is put on the
Right.
SIP, and then making sure that the funding is in place before either going out to bonding or before committing to any funds being spent.
Yep, this works. Roxanne, can you scroll up just a little bit?
Or tell me when to
Right
stop.
there, right there. Where do we get to the point where we had a town meeting voted to approve? Where does it say where the PMBC or the overseeing department notifies the bidder?
That's, I think up here. In the case of section 3 above, overseeing the project can proceed with the project as process as follows. Section 4, project preparation and funding. I think, is that the place, Marcia?
Yeah, so,
The very last bullet point in that.
yeah,
section.
I see that, but the change I made was to move that past all 3 sections so that people didn't skip over it. Because you could read down this, it says, okay, here's what we do, yada, 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 bid opening, award the bid, kind of like what just happened. So I cut that, the bid awarded by PMBC, I cut that out and I put it as its own section after all 3. And I said in section 1, if you've got the money, you can go right to bid notification. In case 2, where you've got grant funding application, Once you get the funding, then you notify the bidder. In section 3, if you go out for bond and the townspeople pass it, then you notify the bidder. Just so it couldn't be skipped over in the process.
How about if Roxanne and I go through and compare? And
Yeah,
we'll
that'd be
make
great.
sure that gets in
That'd be
there
great.
appropriately.
Okay, great. Mary,
Where does doesn't the Planning and Zoning Commission come up with the capital improvement plan for us to consider at budget time?
they actually vote on it. The departments put it together, and then planning and zoning vote, they give us an opinion on it. And then it comes to the council for budget.
Okay,
So it's not put together by planning and zoning, it's put together by town staff, then it goes off to town council, then for planning and zoning for their approval.
okay, I thought the planning and zoning sort of gave it to us and it was included in the budget. No? Okay,
That it is in here, or it was in here about how the planning and zoning commission reviews the capital plan and provides a list of capital improvements to the mayor.
that's what I'm talking about.
That's in there.
Oh, is it? Okay, then I missed it.
But they do have to weigh in on the capital plan before it goes to the voters.
Right,
And any capital budget that's not in the capital plan also has to be weighed in by planning and zoning.
okay.
Okay, so
My other question was, and Marcia, you might have some insight on this one, is Roman numeral 2 subsection 1 talks about the capital plan going to the town planner. So all departments submit to the town planner. But in the case of the potential new ClearGov module, would that in fact change that process?
So I think it should, yes. In reality, in practice, what we have been doing is that the department heads are submitting their capital requests, and they end up coming to me to format and get in the right layout and so forth to give to the mayor to consider all of the requests. And it used to go to the planner, and I think that was because maybe the planning commission is the one who blesses the plan, so to speak, before it goes to the voters.
Yep.
But in reality, it's the mayor who is deciding where the funding is coming from. He is choosing the items to be funded and to hand over to the council, who then
planning
picks
and zoning.
chooses from that.
Planning and zoning offers opinions on what's on the list, but the funding is recommended by the mayor in terms of priority and
Right.
approved by the town council before it goes to the voters. So
Correct.
the funding sources and what gets funding is the mayor and the town council call.
Right, and that's number 4 under Roman numeral 2. Says the mayor includes the proposed CIP list, including potential funding sources in the annual budget submitted to the town council.
Mhm.
Yep.
Town
Since
council
the,
reviews,
sorry.
edits the proposed funding options to include the proposed annual budget, whether it's local taxes, grant bonding, or transfer from other funds.
So, go ahead, Mayor. Okay,
Sorry,
So-
I was waving at Don as he was leaving.
all
Sorry.
right. So Marcia and Roxanne, if you guys would like to take these two in our comments and put them together, that'd be great. And we'll look at it at the next meeting.
Now I'm going to wave to Don. Bye.
I'll wait to Don.
Andre,
Don, we're
wave to
waving.
you.
Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the next item and move to authorize the mayor to submit a planning grant for the planning and design work for the Tri-Town Trail design in the amount of up to $140,000. In addition, authorize the town to provide a 20% local funding match. And I'll stop there and explain why I've asked Kevin if he would also join this meeting. If,
Do you want me to second the motion?
oh, please, thank you.
Second,
Um,
Council Mills.
So there's an opportunity for matching funds, and Mayor, refresh my memory. Now I forget what it is. Is it work done by the town, or was it some other source of funding for the matching?
So the potential in kind in this case comes from Eversource needed access to their transmission lines, and the better access was actually through town property. So in exchange for them gaining that access, they offered to construct 2 parking lots for the Tri-Town Trail, one at the trailhead over by the Preston Park, and the other next to the Red Steel building on the Clark Farm.
Yep.
And so my feeling was that those 2 parking lots would probably very easily satisfy the 20% match for that. But should the state reject that as our match, we still need to be prepared for Plan B or C. B could be many, many hours provided by the Tri-Town Trail Committee members in their work. And Plan C would be ultimately just to have a cash payment made available for that 20% match if A or B didn't work out.
And in that case, we might want to use the open space fund. But this came to you just at the end of last week, actually after the end of the work week. And we have a 7-day turnaround, so it's got to get to town council for a vote. So the discussion that I had with the mayor and Kevin is that if it comes to use of open space funding, then if we were approved for the grant, then we would have a land use planning weigh in on whether to use open space funds or not, and then it would come back to finance. All makes sense?
I agree. It would be, in my opinion, it would be an appropriate use of open space funds if we came to that, so.
And just one more add to that. So the Connecticut Recreational Trails Program grant, under eligible uses, just so everybody's aware and clear, the 80% funding is for planning and design, corridor acquisition, construction administration, and maintenance equipment. So it is a little bit broader than planning and design, which I think is a plus too.
Yeah. Yep.
Bill,
Mary,
you
did you
wanna
have a
add
question?
No,
Bill, did you want to add language to this motion that would say, in addition, authorize the town to provide a 20% local match contingent upon, to be determined contingent upon the approval of the grant? That way it leaves it open for you to decide whether it's going to be Plan A, B, or C.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll take that as a friendly amendment, Andrea.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any questions, comments?
Mayor, I have a question related to the gravel parking lot. How was it determined that that would be the project? In other words, did Eversource come to you and say, you know, we, in exchange for access, we'd like to do something for you, and the idea was proposed by you, or did they propose the idea of the parking lot? What was that?
So it was actually proposed by me. They said, is there anything that we can do? That they needed to essentially park some vehicles. And they said, is there anything that we can do that would, you know, be of assistance to the town while we're using this area? Because the project that they're going to be doing, the transmission line upgrades, will take some time. It will take as much as, I think, a full year.
Yeah.
I said, well, actually, there is that this trail includes 2 parking lots, and though one of them across from the Preston Park is currently in use now, you will find that during the wet season, because it is all soil, it becomes a mud pit, and it's not really built as a parking area right now. It is just a piece of farmland essentially. So I made that overture to Eversource, and Eversource said yes, that would work for them, that they could easily do that. They could bring the equipment in and make that happen. And I felt like that was a very reasonable plan for Eversource and for the town and for Tri-Town Trail.
Terrific. Thank you.
Mayor, do you know if they have any immediate plans for a third line?
They actually do, but what they're doing is they're reconfiguring the transmission lines. So the way you currently see the transmission lines, they're spread out wide. They're going to retain their easement area as they have it now, which is about 175 feet wide. But the new monopoles that they're putting in will have the lines stacked. So you will have a pole, and then you'll have a line, a line, a line, and a line going up instead of across.
Great.
So they're doing some very substantial work in the town of Ledyard in the next 18 months. Off topic a little bit here, but including that substation at the corner of Whalehead and Route 12, that'll be completely upgraded. And then the transmission lines that go across from there and ultimately across where the Tri-Town Trail is now will all be upgraded.
Okay, good. So that means by stacking them, they'll have 3 lines in the space of 2 now?
Exactly. Yeah, so I asked them, I said, oh, well, if you're doing that, are you going to reduce your easement area? And they laughed that off and said, oh, no, that, once they have that easement area, they want to keep the width, but that don't really need it the way they do now, which is good.
Yeah. Do you know how they plan to cross the brook, or do they not plan to cross the brook?
They do plan to cross the brook using an old existing crossing down there. So, and Scott, I know you have maybe some additional information if you want to chime in on that too.
Yeah, so they were talking about essentially temporarily restoring that low crossing. I think it's like a degradable material, and they actually even offered to leave that in place as a crossing point into the trail. I guess it's this almost like a plywood flooring that they'll put down across.
Okay. The reason I ask is that several years ago, they started pouring riprap into the brook and driving through it. And a resident notified Deep and said, you can't just drive through a brook. So just want to keep an eye on their plans there. So
when I met with them, they had, I think, their hydrologist, engineer and all that with them. And I think they were planning on getting permitting, I think, to cross.
Good. That's the right way to do it. Okay. Other questions, comments?
Hey,
Ready to
one
vote?
question.
Oh, yeah, Kevin.
Mayor, to put the parking lots in these areas, which I'm 100% in favor, do we have to have an 824 review because it's town property?
That's a good question. So when they're excavating out the soil and putting down gravel and rolling it, does that constitute enough of an improvement to be considered for an 824?
Yeah, I don't know. We may want to ask the town planner that question.
Yeah.
I don't want us to go do it and all of a sudden we find out we did something we shouldn't do.
Yep. I know it speaks to, to buildings and construction like that, but I'll have to look and see if a gravel parking lot falls under that too. But I will ask that question.
Okay.
And since you brought that up, Kevin, thank you. It occurred to me we should do the same thing with our ARPA funding list too. That needs to go to planning.
Correct.
So,
yep.
So, yeah. Okay. Ready to vote?
Yes.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Counselor Ingalls votes aye.
As does Counselor Solms, and motion passes. And do we have any other new business? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 5:49.
So moved.
Second. Thank you all very much. The Tri-Town Trail folks, thank you for your patience. I know you were last on the agenda. Probably should have moved that up for you. I apologize, but thank you for hanging in there and for the work you're doing. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.